Katie Phang, let's start with you. The most remarkable thing you saw today.
Fani Willis on the stand, the district attorney of Fulton County, taking the stand as a witness in the case that she is prosecuting, but of course, only within the framing of the pending motion to disqualify her. She came in hot. She was angry and she wanted the opportunity to clear her name. In fact, she announced before she took the stand that she was waiving any objections to the subpoena that had been served on her to testify today. But what was more important than her demeanor was what she said. Under oath, under penalties of perjury, and what Nathan Wade said also under penalties of perjury. Remember, these are both members of the Georgia Bar. They're practicing attorneys. They have a lot at stake if they are found not to have told the truth to the court. But they both said that a personal relationship did not begin until after Nathan Wade was appointed special prosecutor in and around March/April of 2022. He was appointed in November of 2021. There was a lot of personal information, frankly, unnecessary personal information that was brought out and drawn out when they were on the stand. But Fani Willis remains on the stand, and what's going to happen tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., she resumes being a witness. And at this point in time, she'll be and I put that in quotes, to be cross-examined by one of the own attorneys from her office, a special prosecutor by the name of Anna Cross. She is then going to have the opportunity to ask Fani Willis even more questions. But Fani Willis so far has definitely, taken some real liberties in a positive way for herself and the way that she's answered the questions that have come from the defense attorney so far.
Andrew Weissman, our colleague Katie Phang, did a magnificent job of hacking through the level of minutia that we have all spent watching today. Let's take a big step back and make sure that we are not missing the forest for the trees. Why are we here?
So the judge had a motion made by Fani Willis's team to say this is all legally irrelevant. That there may be issues here, but they're not relevant to a disqualification motion. And he said, they may be. And this is what I'm interested in. And he said, what I'm interested in is not just did she have a relationship or technically even when it began. The main thing that he said he's interested in is the financial piece. Is there some proof that she is in some way directly or indirectly benefiting from the contract that Fulton County has with the lead prosecutor, Mr. Wade? Because the allegation is that they weren't really split. Yes, they had a relationship. They've admitted that, but they weren't really splitting the proceeds that he was paying for things and she was just benefiting from it. So he said, that's what I'm interested in. Well, as you know, the hearing became sort of a free-for-all. But if you go to that specific issue, the one that he said he's interested in, you do have, as Katie said, you have both Mr. Wade and Fani Willis saying that they did split what was going on. Now, there has to be a credibility finding that the judge has to make. But they said that some paid in with credit cards, but she said I reimbursed either because I paid things directly or at times I took cash that I had at home and I reimbursed him. If the judge credits that, and there may be more testimony to come, including from Fani Willis's father, that she alluded to. But if that is sort of resolved, that the financial piece was roughly equal, that should end this. It is a huge distraction. It is salacious. But the legal reason for being here may become something that is relatively simple for the judge because there may not be contrary evidence in the record.
We're going to unpack everything that you just laid out. But before we even do that, I want to take an even bigger step back.
Yeah, because I'm always in the weeds.
Well, why does this matter, right? I mean, yeah. and I think to that point, there's an entire conversation about, Donald Trump, and there's a conversation about, as you said to me as we were watching, anytime the attention is on the wrong table, that is a problem.
Yeah. So, at trial, the defense wants the jury to be focused on the government table and the allegations of government misconduct. The government wants the jury to be focusing on the charges and the evidence about why the defendant's guilty. Well, analogize this to what's going on now. We're all watching what's happening at this hearing. So the court of public opinion is looking at the prosecution going, well, what in God's green earth is going on? And it all seems like, is there an improper relationship? by the way, that is not the issue for this court. This is not an issue for the court of just, who was sleeping with who. It's not high school or college or pick your, juvenile forum. It's really about this potential financial conflict. Why does it matter? Because if, that's big if, the judge were to say that I do think there's a financial conflict and conflicts Fani Willis off the case, Fani Willis, and there's a lot of support, not just her, the whole office is off the case. That means this case is certainly gone for a while. Somebody has to pick a new DA to take over this case, and that takes time, and then that new DA can do whatever he or she wants with the case.
And if you were Fani Willis, are you reading the tea leaves based on what happened today and having a conversation in your own head about whether or not it is time to step away from this case?
I think the answer to that's no. I think there's no way, given what happened today, that she's thinking, I'm backing down. I think she is, as Katie said, one thing that's really interesting is just before she testified, there was an argument about whether the defense had met the very high burden before you call an adversary. Let me just back up on that. One side or the other doesn't just get to say, oh, I want to call Michael. Michael's going, what are you talking about? I'm a lawyer in the case. I'm not going to be. And so the law to call an adversary, you have to meet a very high threshold. The argument was going back and forth, and the judge seemed, he never had to rule, but he seemed disposed to say, you have not yet, defendants, met your burden to call the lawyer, the main lawyer for the other side. And Fani Willis shows up and says, I'm good. I'm waiving that. And it was, in some ways, it was strategically. I don't think it was done strategically, but it basically sent the message of, I have nothing to hide. This is about my reputation. And as she said, she was very emotional, as Katie said. She was like, I'm taking the stand. I need to clear my name. This is not true. Now, obviously, the judge will be the ultimate arbiter of what he thinks in terms of who is telling the truth here.
She also underlined the stakes. I want to play a moment from today when she reminded us who's actually on trial.
Your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
Well, no. Look, I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
I want to talk with you, Lisa, about that legally, and then I want to talk, Michael, with you about that politically. What did you make of that moment?
I thought that moment was successful for Fani Willis. She sort of harnessed her emotion and in that moment redefined, let's peel back the onion and clarify why it is that we're here. You've given me the equivalent of a proctological exam on national television, and none of it was necessary because what you're trying to do is what, as Andrew just mentioned, distract from what my office is doing. We had conversations today about how much cash Fani Willis kept in her home at all times based on directions from her father and how she was raised. We could not have gotten any further afield from the allegations in her very sizable indictment. So at that moment, to crystallize, hey, wait a second, this is why we're really here, I thought was effective. And I would just want to go back even further, Alicia, because you have to ask yourself, if you're Fani Willis and her team, are you better off at 5:25 today than you were at 9:25 this morning? Going into this based on the allegations that were made in the papers and Judge McAfee's decision to have an evidentiary hearing. And I think the answer to that, mostly based on Fani Willis's own testimony, is yes, that they are better off. Yes, there were some unnecessary personal details. I know lots of things about Nathan Wade, for example, and Fani Willis's relationship, including a dispute about whether it ended and how and why, than I did today.
And the utility of men.
Fair enough. But I also think that Fani Willis gave us a picture of who she is, a person who is very proudly independent. Nathan Wade had set the stage for that, but somehow from her own mouth, describing how she was raised, why she kept cash in her house, to the dissolution of their relationship, which basically ended, according to her, because they had very different attitudes about men and women and their roles in the world. All of that, I thought, enhanced her credibility, even if at times she should have shut it, as somebody else at this table commented while we were watching.
Michael?
Yeah, I was the one that said she should have shut it because she came in hot. She came in really hot. And, you know, the one thing in a moment like that is, because I've been in that situation where you're confronted by adversaries and you want to set the record straight and you want to make it very clear. So you do come in a little bit hot, but you have to figure out, and I think she eventually did, to sort of dial it down, because you don't want to lose the very person, in this case a judge, that you're trying to convince that there is no there, that there is no nefarious, shenanigans with money. It's just an affair between two consenting adults, that we probably shouldn't have engaged in. But it had nothing to do with the central thing, which she brought everyone back to. We're here because Donald Trump's lawyers are trying to distract us from the fact that Donald Trump is the one who violated Georgia criminal law by engaging in efforts to overturn a duly constituted election. So with all of that, at the end of the day, to answer your question, yes, at 5:25, she is much better off than she was at 9:25 this morning, and even more so from the time she first sat down, because she came in a little bit warm, and I think people probably was like, okay, you hiding something. You're a little bit too defensive here. But then I think she kind of got in that sort of, she got out of the prosecutorial mindset a little bit, and then came back in it. And that was the important thing for her, I thought, to sort of come back into it as someone who is not only defending herself, but then also defending her office at the various times she needed to do that.